Welcome to season 2 of the Fit to Love podcast show. Welcome to Fit to Love, Movement Mondays, all about exercise, all about movement, all about you. Enjoy the show. Having a hard time losing weight and can't figure out why? Did you know there are 7 factors that contribute to weight loss resistance? Come on over to fittolove.tv/quiz and find out if one of those factors is sabotaging you. Today's show, beginner hamstring exercises. We're going to cover 2 exercises today that I consider beginner. And I believe that everyone should start here for the reason that you really want to be able to activate your hamstring muscles with your brain. There are a lot of different ways to do exercises. If you're just doing a motion and you're not connected to the muscle, you don't know what you're feeling. And so really it's important, especially for hamstrings, to activate, create those motor patterns and that neural pathway by thinking about it and really connecting to it. That way you get what you want out of it. You're actually going to get hamstring muscles versus other muscles that may come into play, such as your glutes. So we're going to start off with a regular bridge. Most people know what a bridge is, but most people are doing it improperly. So we're going to start with your feet hip width apart, and I'm going to lay down on the ground. Okay, so from here, a couple things about the bridge. If you just push your butt up in the air, you may or may not feel a little tightness in your lower back. So something I like to make sure people do is a little pelvic tilt first. You want to make sure that you're actually pulling from your pelvis, your pubic bone, your abs. Because I can actually push my butt forward and do this motion, and I want you to pull from your abs. So do a little pelvic tilt. And then I want you to visualize the back of the leg, because your hamstrings, you have 3 hamstring muscles, and they basically connect your knee and they come up to the butt, to the hip. And so these are the muscles we want to activate. That's what we want to think about. So my feet are hip width apart. I'm going to make sure my foot, you don't have to do this with bare feet. However, the good part of doing it with bare feet is you can actually feel the bottom of your foot on the ground and activate all parts of it. You don't want to roll on the outside of the feet. You actually want to use the whole foot like a claw. Don't do too much pressure, but you want to activate your whole foot to make sure it's on the ground. And you want your knees to be parallel. You don't want your knees to bow out or relax your hips into rotation. So we're going to keep our knees parallel, our feet close to our butt. You're going to do a slight pelvic tilt, and then I'm going to visualize one of 2 things. I find for people who aren't connected to their hamstrings very well, that the first one works better. You're actually going to think about these muscles pushing away from the ground. So try that first, where these muscles are pushing away from the ground, and then you lift up. And you come up as high as you comfortably can come up. And then when you come back down, you don't rest. And again, you think about these muscles pushing away from the ground. Now, I'm not a big fan of thinking about pushing because as I've gone over in a previous Movement Monday, that all muscles pull, no muscles push. But it seems like that cue works for most people to activate the muscles and have them actually feel it. So if you're more of a advanced beginner, I want you to now move from pushing with these muscles to pulling. You're actually going to pull from the back of the knee up towards the butt. So I want you to imagine that muscle shortening. So from the back of the knee, that muscle is pulling up towards my butt and shortening, which causes me to be in this position. So this is a basic bridge. And I would recommend starting out, again, make sure your pelvis is tilted. If you start to feel your lower back, tilt a little harder, but maintain that you're visualizing all the way up the back of the leg to make sure that you're feeling your hamstring muscle. So this is a basic bridge. And again, if you are not feeling your hamstrings, take it into a position and hold isometrically and really visualize what's going on down here in the contraction of the muscle. So that way your brain starts to activate and you can actually feel your hamstring muscles. Now, a bridge is a great way to stretch out your hip flexors and a great way to actively stretch out your quadriceps. So if you have tight quads or tight hip flexors, you may feel those first, and that's fine, as long as after you do it a few times, your hamstrings start to kick in. Now, for some people, because of your torso length or your leg length, this might not be hard enough. Maybe you get it and it only takes you a few times to get it. So my recommendation, that's still kind of a beginner exercise, is to do it on a ball. So I'm going to roll the ball over, and again, make sure the lines on the ball are straight and even with your body. How far the ball is away from your center determines how hard it is. So, if you want to start out with it a little closer, a little more leg on the ball, that's fine. And as you get comfortable, you can push the ball further away. So bring the ball in, straddle the middle line. Same idea. You might want to do a little pelvic tilt and visualize the back of the legs either pushing away from the ball on the floor or pulling from the back of the knee all the way up to the butt. Now, of course, this is harder because there's now instability. I now have to use my core to balance as I bridge. So there's dynamic stability happening at the same time because my feet aren't on the ground. But for some people, if a bridge is not enough, this is still, I still kind of think it's a beginner exercise. It just definitely is harder. So start with the one on the floor first and then try this one next. Another tip about the ball bridge, make sure that your knees and your toes are facing the same way you are, the ceiling. A lot of times we want to externally rotate, but when you externally rotate and open up, you actually change the position of the hamstring. So we're not going to actually target it quite as well as if you're in alignment structurally on the ball. So bridge, try that first, regardless of if you think it's too easy. Just make sure that you are connected to your hamstrings. And then if you are and it's not hard enough, then move to the ball. Recommended sets and reps, I'd start with 2 or 3 sets of 25 to 30 reps at about a 4-second pace. If that's too easy and you never fatigue and it never gets hard, then definitely move from the regular bridge to the ball.